What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Craving Wild podcast episode. This is episode number 38, and we have our good buddy Gunnar Emberg on today. We are going to get into like the post seasons are kind of starting and getting rolling here. Some of us aren't, and we're just kind of chomping at the bit, waiting to go. But we're going to talk a little bit about what to do after you shoot the deer, and early season you can kind of run into some scenarios where it's hot outside, it might be raining, some just different things that we're going to talk about. And then we're going to, at the end of it or middle of it or wherever we decide to talk about it, we'll talk about good meals to make from fresh venison that's just hanging in wherever, or maybe it's not hanging. We'll get into that too. So it's Dan talking, and then in the studio I have
Antonio,
aka the Venezuelan redneck, and then I have the man, the myth, the legend on the phone from wherever he's from, in an undisclosed location in Pennsylvania. He showed up to camp, cooked an amazing meal. There was moose meat, there was wild boar, there was knives and spatulas flying everywhere. He brought his own grill, didn't have to do anything. Gunnar Emberg, the Hungry Huntsman. What's up, brother?
What's going on, guys?
I got nervous there. I was like, oh, maybe he left.
It was a good intro for nobody to be there.
Awesome. So, once again, thanks for coming out and chefing it up for us when we were out there looking at the elk.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to run through kind of what you made?
Yeah, man. So I've been wanting to do a lot of twists on some classics lately. So I started messing around with a chopped cheese. You're East Coast people too. Chopped cheese is kind of one of those like quintessential, hey man, if there's a sub or a sandwich that identifies New York City, like that's it, And so I started messing around with, the wild game part of that too. Like, okay, yeah, I can be your typical guy and just throw wild game into this, but I'm like, I want to do it better, So I ground this game myself, and I introduced beef fat into it to get the beef right, or to get the fat content right, to get some of that flavor too, because that's part of the chopped cheese is you get a lot of flavor of fat and beef, and it's greasy, and that's what you love about it. So went through that, did all that to it, and then naturally you have to have onion in there, seasoned it up with some of my ricochet rub too, and then a little bit of ketchup, a homemade boom boom sauce on some simple toasted buns. I didn't get to wrap these ones in foil, but they turned out pretty good even still.
Yeah, I mean, if there was 72 of them, I would have ate 73. And you did a little trick at the end that I liked a lot, was to get the cheese melted. Let the listeners know on that little trick there with to get the cheese melted.
Yeah, so a lot of times in a lot of restaurants, you see all these people put a little squirt of water underneath this, little lid that they're going to put down on this, and that'll help do that. And I'm like, cool, but how do I bring more flavor? I'll use beef broth. A little bit of that in there, it's going to give some saltiness, some depth to it when it all cooks down and melts with the cheese and everything, and it's just adding flavor for, minimal cost at that point.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a brilliant idea.
Yeah, it is. It was amazing. The whole thing was great.
So
yeah, thank you, yeah.
I like the fact that you just mentioned that you want it greasy, and that always has to be the that's when you know that you eat it. Like if you go out everywhere or anywhere in the city or anywhere actually, and you get a paper bag and if that thing is greasy, that's gonna be some good fucking eating.
Yes.
Exactly.
If you're listening to this and your primary goal is to lose 50 pounds, probably isn't the one you want to listen
to. Yeah.
But if you want to feel like you just gain 50 lives, then listen to this.
Yes.
Keep listening.
Yeah, we will make you gain weight and shorten your life expectancy, but you'll be happy. So, hey, it's up to you to choose what route you want to go. If you want to go the happy route, we'll be there waiting for you. So, obviously you made it with moose meat, which was delicious. And for anybody who doesn't know, like the chop, what he's talking about is basically just burger meat, right?
Yeah, that's all it is. Just chopped up burger meat it goes on a hoagie bun instead of a hamburger bun. You just chop it up and melt some cheese on it.
Yeah, it's like it's basically a cheesesteak, but just with ground. So it's a good way to get rid of your ground. We're coming into that, season where, hunting season is just about over. If you have a lot of ground left over, which I know that seems to be what a lot of people have left for whatever
Yeah.
reason. For me, it seems to
Yep.
be like the first thing that goes.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm special. Don't answer that.
We taking tests.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a question about what you just pretty said about the amount of fat with burger. How do you calculate that? Are you going like 80-20, or is it sort of like, no, this looks right, and how do
So
you
I go
calculate
for
that meat fat?
yeah. So I go for 80-20 or heavier on fat, right? And essentially what I do is, when I'm butchering or whatever off my pile, and naturally there's going to be a little bit of fat in there, but I don't count that at all, because what little bit is in there for how lean of an animal these wild game things are,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to add more fat to it. That little bit that's in there doesn't matter to me in the overall picture of how fatty this ground meat is. So what a lot of people are going to do is they're going to mess up these ratios on like, okay, yeah, I want an 80-20 blend and I have 5 pounds of venison. Well, I'm going to add 1 pound of beef fat because 1 pound is 20% of 5 pounds. Well,
Yeah.
that's where you're wrong, right? Because you're introducing another substance to that. Your total mixture no longer weighs 5 pounds, it weighs 6 pounds. So you're going to want to add, instead of dividing by 4, divide by 3 to get that number, right? So you're roughly going to be just over 1.5 pounds-ish of total fat that you would add into that, and that's going to make a world of difference in the end.
Oh yeah, interesting. That's a good point there.
Yeah, very much so. You got to have the fat, man.
Yeah.
I love the traditional, like going the traditional route of just the wild game. I understand the nostalgia of that, but there's just some meals that you got to make that you want to make. I should say that the fat is just such a great thing to have.
It is always.
Exactly.
And then, do you
yeah.
rather use beef or pork or anything else?
It depends on what I'm doing. So I do a lot of both, where like normally if we'll make sausages or something, we will cut that just half and half with pork. And like Dan was saying too, like, yeah, I'd love to have it all venison, but sausage needs a lot of fat. With ideally it's like a 60-40 mixture there, really heavy on the fat. And pork is just naturally inundated with fat all throughout it, so it just makes a good process there. However, though, you have some people that have medical conditions where, hey, like pork fat doesn't agree with them, so they can't eat pork. Okay, well, now I just got to do a little bit of extra math, basically, and do it with beef. I personally like beef fat better for burger and stuff like that. Sausage-wise, doesn't really matter. Beef fat tends to bring a really heavy flavor that can kind of overpower some stuff, whereas the pork doesn't necessarily. But for caramelization, for that Maillard reaction, getting those good crispy bits on burger and stuff, I like beef fat better for that.
Yeah. And then you said for the sausage, you mix it with pork. Are you talking pork meat and fat, or just pork fat when you're mixing it with the sausage to make the sausage?
Meat and fat. So that does two things to you, right?
Okay.
That now doubles the volume of what you were going to have, yet it's still, there's going to be enough fat in there and wild game in there where you're not going to lose the wild game flavor and texture, but the fat is going to keep it juicy enough there.
Mm-hmm. So, but you're still doing 60-40 for the sausage.
For sausage,
right,
I just
60...
cut my venison with pork right in half, basically. So if I have 5 pounds of venison, I'm putting 5 pounds of pork butt in there.
Oh,
nice. I was just going to ask you
yeah.
what cut of pork, but you just answered it with the butt.
Yeah.
I like using shoulders when they go on sale because they're cheap as shit. But I mean, the butt's going to be that fattier, juicier.
Funny enough, those are the same cut.
Isn't one? I shouldn't say. Isn't the shoulder the lower half, and then like the Boston butt's the upper half of the hindquarter?
It can be considered that. Most people, like, a lot of times you won't find a shoulder roast anywhere. Because a lot of times that will get taken and turned into like your bone-in pork chops for the most part, because those run all the way up to that essentially.
Right.
So they're risking like messing that area up essentially, and then so like there's still tenderloin there. So a lot of places you won't find that. But the like pork butt itself is actually the lower half of that.
Okay.
Like it's the pork butt itself, like whenever we debone them, essentially, we're taking out pretty much 75% of the scapula that's already still in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
If not, up to 100 too, depending on how bad they get cut from the processor.
The process, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I just had a thing flash through my brain that all of a sudden now I want to raise pigs to cut my deer meat with. I don't know why.
Don't. We already have
Nah,
way
man.
too
If
many
I'm
hogs.
raising pigs, I'm raising them to hunt truffles.
Oh
Ooh,
snap,
fuck.
dude! This guy's thinking
Yeah.
about money more than anything.
Yeah. We're gonna flash forward ahead a little bit. Antonio has a guy that we're gonna be linking up with
Oh,
that's
yeah.
into this foraging stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, hell
He's
yeah.
gonna be good because I call him my mushroom guy, but he's just a friend of mine. He used to we used to work together. He's a big photographer guy, and we used to work together.
Okay.
In a couple of things, and but he sort of not retire. I'm not gonna say retire, but he sort of turned a little bit more into staying at home and
Yeah.
growing his own vegetables and hunting more.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's
Hell
gonna be
yeah.
pretty. I call him a mushroom because every question I have about mushrooms or any sort of forage in the woods, I text him, wait for a response, and then I proceed with what I found.
Yeah, man. That's like, I know my
Uh,
shit when it comes to wild edibles, but mushrooms? Nope. I'm going to ask somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
We should get you and that guy in the same room together and cook some shit up. That sounds like it might
Yeah.
be a little dangerous.
Yeah, he might be.
Oh.
He's the one that taught me how to make wood dog jalapeno poppers, which I still
Oh,
to this day
okay.
love.
You can't beat that.
Yeah, well,
No.
some people
Duff.
hate on wood dogs and eating them.
Well, those people are stupid. Where there's a will, there's a way. I mean,
Yeah.
we could pretty much blindfold yourself,
Yeah.
rub some. Well, okay, hold on. Let me
Yeah.
structure this right.
Pick your words.
You can
here.
blindfold yourself. Pick some wild game. Right here's a shout out. Throw some Ricochet blend on there or Ricochet rub, and you'll be fine. It's just that whether or not you got to cook it fast or cook it slow. That's it.
Right. Exactly.
We should
It
do
isn't
that
hard.
with Gunner. We should have like a.
No.
We should do that with Gunner, like a trial thing. We just grab like the
Randomest.
shittiest fucking wild game, the merganser.
So
that's been sitting in my backyard
Cool.
for a day.
this is
All right, I can
See
deal
if
with
he,
that.
if he cooks it good.
challenge accepted. So this, just for the listeners, when Gunner came down, so this is what happens when Gunner and the Craving Wild crew get together. The meat that we had to eat. So Gunner brought moose and wild boar, and we brought venison, ostrich, and Antonio brought this shit called blood sausage. Phenomenal. So like this is not the normal shit that people bring
Yeah,
to
a campground.
to go camping. But we made it work. Unfortunately, Gunner missed the blood sausage, but that was, oh man, you missed.
It's okay.
Damn.
Next time, I promise him plantains.
Yes.
And I fail
Yeah.
miserably on my task. But as a reward, I'm bringing you more. I'm bringing you blood sausage.
All right, I'll
a little
take that
cherry
trade
on
off.
top.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take
Man,
that.
we had
The
we-
ostrich came out good, but what a weird texture. I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
I don't know if we.
I
if we
fucked up the
cooked it
first
wrong.
piece. Is I cut it the wrong way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was very weird. It was good. Tasted like steak. Didn't
Yeah.
taste bad. It's just
Yeah.
the texture was a little.
Yeah,
I don't know what it was about it.
it's different. It's a
different.
giant bird.
It's a joke.
Yeah.
And apparently, if you get bit by a tick, the lone star tick, that's one of the meats you can eat a lot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you like red
absolutely.
meat.
Well, all right. Let's get into the actual podcast.
Yeah, we're just bullshitting about
which-
food right now.
Yeah. Hey, there's nothing wrong with. I like. I don't know. I don't know if the other people, like anybody listening, likes it, but
Yeah, right.
Better like it.
I like it. The problem is I like it too much. Is after we get done recording, I go stuff my face and then go to sleep and gain 10 pounds.
Right, yeah, shit.
But hey, it is. Once again, I'm happy. That's all that matters. You're happy.
Right. Right.
So what I wanted to talk about a little bit, and there's also a special secret that we'll let go at the end of the episode about some shit that we got going on. So keep on task with that to the listeners to listen and hear what that special news is.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it's the time of the season where you shoot a deer It could be 80 degrees. It could be 40 degrees. Nobody knows. But basically, what we want to talk about is after the kill. There's 1,000,001 podcasts about how to kill a deer. There's
Right.
effectively negative 14 on what the hell do you do after that.
Yeah,
And in my
exactly.
opinion, that's probably one of the most important parts, and my favorite part
Yeah.
is the butchering and the cooking. And I'm assuming everybody talking here is pretty much the same deal. So let's just run through quick, Gunnar. We'll just set the scene a little bit. Or first weekend in October, Pennsylvania opener. Dude goes out, kills a doe, nice sized doe. It's 70 degrees outside. That's fair, right? 70 degrees.
Yeah.
The high is 70 degrees. How and you shoot the deer in the morning. What would be your advice to that person to if they want to either get into butchering their own deer or kind of already do and just want to do a little bit more? We'll start with the guy who's just kind of getting into it. Just run through kind of the steps after the kill on what you need to do to kind of protect that meat and keep it the freshest and most delicious we can.
Yeah, absolutely. So early season, my whole game plan for after the shot changes compared to, rut or rifle or something like that. Later on in the season, I'm more of okay, I'm going to give this deer, 30, 40 minutes or so to die here. Because it's cold enough, they're going to be fine. However, early season, time is of the essence at that point, right? So if I know I made a shot and I know I made impact with that, soon as that deer is out of sight, I'm on the ground and I'm looking for arrow and I'm looking for blood. Once I have all of that found, depending on how long that takes me, because sometimes, I'm in a cornfield and I don't find my arrow until the next year, but,
True.
yeah, right. Yeah, it's bad up here. Like, the farmer just knows, like, he'll find him when he's cutting down corn and he'll just stick him in the field at the end of it so he doesn't run him over again. Ugh. But, yeah, finding blood, right? And then I go as far as I can see without really being intrusive, right? Like if I'm going to have to drop over a ridge or, cross through a wood line from a field or something like that, right? I kind of just hang out there for a couple minutes, right? And I game plan at that point, right? Because I'm like, okay, it's archery. Most deer aren't going to run, super far by any sort of means. Maybe a couple 100 yards at max after they just got stabbed with an arrow, right? And that's even pushing it.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
hot out, everything like that. So my initial thought is, okay, how much stuff can I take off of me and still get this deer okay? Because it's hot. I don't want to be dragging, a stand and a backpack and full of clothes and stuff all over the place. I'm going to leave everything at my stand if I can. Now, if it's not, private land, if it's public land, I'm going to kind of game plan like, okay, I'm going to get this stuff and I'll leave this at the truck, if it's not too far of a walk or something. And then I'll go find that deer for the most part. But I want to make myself as light as possible and as mobile as possible. So then, after all that is said and done, it's probably 20, 25 minutes or so. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to find the deer. Like if I just got stabbed and if you hit them good in the vitals, they're dead. And yeah, you have these outlier cases where, oh, well, this one lived, 3 hours and it was stabbed right through the heart. And it's like, okay, I get it. However, statistically speaking, you're probably going to find a dead deer, So once I get up onto it, everything like that, it's, okay, how close am I to the truck or how far am I from the truck? If I'm close enough to make a drag, I won't even gut it, essentially, right away. If I'm, a mile out, I'm gutting that thing immediately. Now, depending on how far out I am, because some of my hikes are, 3 miles or so, I might have to skin and quarter that out in the field, which I'm prepared for in terms of the gear that I bring with me. I bring a knife, I bring a sharpener, I bring a couple game bags and some extra rope and stuff like that to be able to pack out a whole deer if I need to. It sucks. I don't like doing it. It gets everything messy. Just as more introduction for dirt, bacteria, and stuff like that. So I tend not to do it if I don't have to. But once you're out of the woods, depending on where you're going, if you're going home, if you're going to camp, get that thing hung up, get it skinned, and get it in a cooler with some ice immediately, right? Now, a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, you shouldn't put it in water because, that's what, bacteria grows in and stuff. And it's like, okay, cool. Scientifically speaking, your body is 75 to 80% water. Like, it's already wet. That's one of the least concerns I have at that point, right? It's how cold can I get this as fast as I can? Otherwise, it's going to go bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a lot of people are like, oh, if it's, above this temperature, it's going to grow bacteria and all this. And it's yes. And same thing with water. Like, yes, it can enhance bacterial growth. However, you just need to get it cold. That is your main goal right now, is get it as cold as possible. And you see guys all the time that, oh yeah, I threw a bag of ice in the chest cavity to cool it down. It's like, okay, what about the back legs where, 60% of your meat is at that point?
Yeah.
What about your shoulders and your neck and all of that? The ribs have no meat on them for the most part. You're cooling down back straps, if that,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and cold falls, so that ain't touching any hindquarters.
Exactly, yeah. That's
if you have it
like,
hanging. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're wasting money, you're wasting ice right there. Like you are doing yourself no good. Order it, get it in a cooler, and get it on ice. And I don't mean like, oh, there's ice in the cooler. I'm talking, you should barely be able to close that cooler. It is so packed with so much ice and meat in there. Yeah, and it's, but that way you're getting it cool enough. You're getting that cold to penetrate as deep as possible, as fast as possible, to save all of that meat, essentially, right? Then
Can I cut in real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I actually have like a story that I can tell that pretty much solidifies what you're talking about.
Yep.
I killed a doe in Kentucky a couple years ago, and it was extremely hot. I want to say pushing 90 degrees.
Yeah.
And I got that on like I shot the deer. I forget the timetables exactly, but I shot the deer in the afternoon. Got her out, got her taken care of. Put her on ice immediately. And like Gunnar said, packed the thing full of ice.
Yeah.
It was pretty much like a layer of ice, a leg, layer of ice, another leg, and just keep layering it. So there's really no meat touching each other.
Mm-hmm.
It was separated by ice, at all costs. And I drove home from Kentucky. I slept, woke up, drove home, got home, took the meat out. The meat was bone cold, and there was no smells, no nothing, even around the bone, around the hind quarter. It was perfect. Even like the gland, sometimes around that gland starts to get a little stanky.
Yeah.
Everything was perfectly fine,
That's an 8-hour drive.
That's correct. Good, yeah.
Yeah.
8-hour drive, 90-degree temperature. So it can be done if you want to, and what Gunnar is saying for a fact works. All right, continue. Sorry.
To your point though, too, like you have that story to go along with it. Like people just need to be prepared for this though. Like you change your tactic, varying if it's rut or early season stuff like that. Change your prep to get that deer out of the woods and to get it taken care of too. Because what's the point of hunting this thing if you're not going to eat it? If you're just going to let it go to waste, then why are you even packing it out of the woods?
Right, right. Now I don't know if this helped or hurt, but I did the gutless method.
Okay,
and so left all the hide there. Obviously took all the meat that I needed to take, and I just put everything. And people are gonna cringe. I put it in black garbage bags.
Yeah.
And just got it out of there as fast as possible, and it was fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, like there's better ways to do it than a black garbage. However, here's the thing: it worked, didn't it?
Yeah.
Like you don't have to go buy the $20-$30 game bags that are antimicrobial. Just make yourself have a plan to get this thing out of the woods, essentially, and it's going to help your results in the long run.
Right. Now, am I going to leave that overnight? No. Am I going to?
Yeah.
Am I going to walk 15? No, I'm not going to walk 15 miles. I was in Kentucky, maybe
Right.
2 miles from the truck, flat. I was in and out quick.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you gotta know what your situation is, but yeah, that is a possibility. You don't need to spend a ton of money, like Gunnar was saying, on those bags. Are they nice to have? Yeah, they're nice to have. Do you need them? No.
Nope.
All right.
Yeah.
Where were we?
Stop interrupting,
right.
Gunnar.
Sorry, I apologize.
So we're back. It's on ice right now. You might be able to get this thing back if you have a home processing station and a place to dry age it for a little bit, stuff like that. By all means, go ahead, get it back, skin it as soon as possible. quarter it, hang it in, whatever fridge you're using to dry age for a little bit. Now, what's going to happen though is if you have this thing on ice, I do not recommend dry aging it in a fridge anymore, because now it has been introduced to that water, which essentially what the water can do too is, say just the front left shoulder has gangrene, right? Say you don't catch it, right? That water now gives space for that gangrene bacteria to move about freely and get in contact with the other meat, right? That's the issue with it. If there's already bacteria in the hind quarter, just because you get it wet doesn't mean more bacteria is going to grow on that hind quarter, essentially. It probably will, because of mold and just how that stuff grows, but the wet cooler thing is where that comes from, is that now this bacteria from this front left shoulder can impact other hunks of meat, right? And that's why I don't recommend dry aging, because now you're just giving it an environment to grow bacteria, essentially, because most dry agers at home are, rigged up using salt blocks and stuff like that, and it's just a fridge, and all it's going to do is spread bacteria. It's not actually going to be humidity controlled so bacteria can't grow and stuff like that. But that's where, I'm like, hey, the rest of your day, like, you should know going into that hunt, like, hey, if I get a deer today, I'm going to butcher it right away. Like, my day is shot. I'm going to either call in sick to work, or, I'm just going to have to deal with it as is. It's going to be a late night or something. But if you have to throw that thing in a cooler with a bunch of ice, I recommend butchering it that day and getting it in the fridge and freezer.
Do you dry the meat with like paper towels to take some of that moisture out, or do you just wrap it and straight to the freezer?
It all depends. I will dry some stuff off once I take it out of the ice, but like I said, there's still blood in that. There's still liquid in the muscles and stuff. It's gonna be getting juice everywhere anyway, so I don't really worry about it too much. I'm just really careful of what I look for. Hey, is there an injury on this limb that I didn't see while I was in the field doing this, and be careful about it like that.
Okay. That's good. Good to know, man. That's
yeah.
I guess a good technique for those hot days. I'm guessing if you're like close to the car where you shot the deer, then dragging it might be a little bit better, because you can get them into the car and whatever is it that you have to do faster than quartering in.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, where are we at?
Yeah.
Sorry, I like zoned out. I was actually looking up a chart of like temperatures and stuff based off of microbial growth.
Yeah.
That's not important right now.
Yeah.
You can, if you're curious, just look it up on your own. There's like actual, like, there's time slots, and I know this from working in the HVAC field and stuff, like temperatures and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So we get it back. We're taking care of it. Say you don't have a place to hang it. You're just gonna butcher it in the back of your truck. I guess the best thing, what I would do personally, is part it out if you can, obviously.
Yeah.
Taking it to a butcher, I guess, obviously, is the best thing if you don't have any of this stuff, right? Find a local butcher, help them out, make sure it's clean when you take it there, as dry as possible, so on and so forth. But let's run through, like, you get it home, you don't have a place to hang it, you're gonna butcher it, take a hunk off on your truck and bring it inside. Are you gonna let it sit in the fridge? Are you going to, if there's no ice involved, right? We're not doing the ice thing anymore.
Okay.
We just shot a deer, brought it home. Are you gonna let that part? Are you gonna part it out and leave it in the fridge, or are you gonna part it out and just freeze it immediately? Are you gonna part it out and just let it get down the temperature and then freeze it? Like, how would you go about that kind of scenario?
So, kind of the last one you hit there, like, I'm going to part it out, but I'm going to let it get to temperature before I do anything else with it for the most part.
Okay.
Which, is generally, putting it in the fridge overnight at a minimum. However, I put mine on, like, sheet trays with wire racks on them so air can get around the whole thing, and then it's not sitting in any liquid that drips out either.
That's a good tip.
Now, granted, though, like, I do have I bought, like, an old commercial fridge, like, 2-door sliding glass one, kind of like a drink fridge, that I built a custom like rack in there to where, hey, I can, quarter these and just poke a hole right through it and hang it right up at that point. So I designed it to be able to have an actual like whole bone-in dry ager essentially at my house. But if I don't have access to that, it is, on wire racks in the fridge as long as I can, just to get them as cold as quick as possible.
Okay. All right. Do you ever freeze? No. Hold on. I'm trying to like think of all like avenues that people like can
Especially
and can't
in
do.
this hot weather.
Yeah. Because I have like I feel like I have a very dialed system, but it's very specific to like me.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
I'm trying to think. A guy shoots a deer, brings it back home. Where can we kind of fan off from there? I think we covered a lot of it. Really.
Yeah.
You either gotta take it to the butcher. It's gonna be on ice already, and then you gotta deal with it in the manner Gunnar talked about earlier.
Yeah.
You're gonna start butchering it at your house if you drug it, skin it, all that stuff.
I think if nobody has like if it's just a new hunter, right? Before we start scaring him with industrial coolers and wire racks and stuff like that, I think, to me at least, was the best option was get it as cool as possible, get it to temperature, either by just the time you're taking to butcher it, and then just whatever cut you wrap just straight in the fridge while you cut another piece, and then straight to the freezer, and and try to keep it as cool as possible, especially if you're new to hunting. That's the main thing. Water, don't worry about it. Liquid, don't worry about it. Just don't get it to get too hot.
Yeah. Now,
Yep, exactly.
Gunnar, when you are getting to the point now where you're gonna, butcher that deer and get it frozen, how are you gonna say you don't have any deer meat in your freezer? How are you gonna section that deer out and freeze it? Like, how are you freezing whole legs? Are you freezing it? We talked about it a little bit, but parting it out. How are you doing your tenderloin or your back straps? Like, how is Gunnar going to break that meat down and then put it in his freezer?
Yeah, so first deer of the year for me is very, what projects can I do with this kind of thing? Because I know I'm getting more deer later for my ground and stuff like that. So, pending where my shot placement, if I broke a shoulder or something like that, either debone the whole front leg. For the most part, I will, unless, I want to leave the upper shoulder altogether. So if I can smoke that, right, and do it, smoked bone on, stuff like that, I might do that. Otherwise, I'm kind of just tearing that whole thing. Yeah, whole shoulder.
Okay. I'm writing that down. We'll come back to that.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'm kind of just tearing stuff off of that, getting what roasts that I can. And I work in whole muscle groups too. I'm not, hey, let me take this to a saw and cut, this roast out that has 5 different muscles in it that they all cook different. I work in whole muscle groups, so it's all going to cook the same and everything like that. But front shoulder wise, either freeze it whole. I will, I save the shanks for me too. And then, pending what I'm doing, I might tear them off, freeze some roast, like a blade roast and stuff like that, and just kind of get some grind for burger there too. Back straps, I always freeze in whole, no matter what, because I shoot a lot of doe and they're never as big as, a mature buck or anything. So I'm whole on those guys. I freeze them up that way. I do take a silver skin off beforehand. That's just me from being a butcher, though. If I see it comes off immediately. Like, it's second nature to me.
I know, like, a bunch of people that would totally disagree with that.
Yeah, I don't.
So the older guys leave the silver skin on and freeze it because their theory is that silver skin protects from freezer burn. Yeah, but my theory is like, especially if you're using like a vacuum sealer, you're not. I think that's kind of overkill.
But like, old people need to combat freezer burn because the freezers back when they had freezers did burn the shit out of everything because they sucked. And now, like, we have vacuum sealers and good freezers that don't frost up and shit. And it's especially like if you're an avid hunter and you love eating wild game, it's not going to be in your freezer long enough to get freezer burnt too.
Very good point.
Yeah.
Legally, it's not supposed to be in your freezer to get freezer burn.
Right, yeah.
We'll just say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So would you rather would you rather vacuum seal or syringe wrap and the butcher paper technique or any other technique that?
Yeah, how do you freeze your stuff?
I'm a vacuum seal guy, but I am not a here's your little food saver thing from Walmart guy. I'm a we're gonna cryovac this. We're gonna use a negative pressure one to really get it good. Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of equipment, if someone's looking into getting into butchering themselves, what would you kind of point them in the right direction to spend their money on first?
Yeah. First, you're going to have to get the simple setup, right? So a lot of people are like, oh, I got to butcher a deer, I'm going to need all of this stuff to do it. I can do it with a knife, right? That's the one main thing you need is a good knife or knife kit that you can take care of, that you can sharpen well, and that you can maintain these things, and that you know how to use them too, right? After that, I hang my deer pretty much all the time. Most processors do, pretty much everybody does, right? So find a way to hang your deer. There's some pretty fancy setups out there. And then there's the, $20 essentially big ass coat hanger thing that you just raise them right up with. And that's what I use.
Yep.
I mean, it works great for what it is, right?
Yeah, it is.
After that, man, get some big bowls, like big stainless bowls, and a big cutting board, an extra table, and a chair, and you can do a whole deer just fine right there, right? Now, if you want to take it a step further, okay, hey, let's get a vacuum sealer, and not everybody is going to do it like me, the Food Saver ones, the Cabela's ones, they're fine. They will do what you need them to do. I have other uses for my vacuum sealer, though, like with marinades and stuff like that, so I have a good one.
Right.
But,
there's levels to everything.
Yeah, exactly.
I learned with the Food Saver ones. Yeah, I learned with because I have a cheap one. I don't think it's got. Maybe it's just
Weston?
a Food Saver. I don't know what it is. And I've come up with a problem that the actual vacuum part of it doesn't hold for long. It's very the air gets in there, and I have lost a couple pieces of meat because of freeze burn.
Right.
Let's put on quotation there. But because the air got in it, of course, when I did it, it seemed fine. But I put it in the freezer. Maybe the freezer nicked something, and air got there. So if you do go that route, just make sure that try to handle it carefully because they tend to poke holes and air gets in there.
Especially with bones. If you're doing stuff bone in, you can definitely cut that, puncture that stuff. Yeah, I try to, if I'm doing a lot of stuff with bones, like if I'm doing smaller stuff, rabbit, shit like that, squirrels, I try to, I'll put a layer of paper towel.
Yeah.
Or newspaper, whatever, and just line it to try and help, reinforce that a little bit.
That's the pro tip with bones, right? Take some saran wrap, just tear off size of it, wad it up into a ball, and it will mold right over that bone, and then you're good to go.
Oh shit, okay.
Yeah. Yep, we used to do that at the butcher shop anytime we would have to vacuum seal, like bone-in steaks or anything, just take some plastic wrap, bunch it right up, put it right over that, and then it'll seal just fine.
That's awesome.
That's good too. Yeah, that's nice because the paper towel, gets soggy when you thaw it out. It turns and then the newspaper, fucking next thing you know, you got comics on your back strap or whatever you're freezing with at that time.
Shit.
That's funny.
But in 1994, when you were poor, that's just what you had.
Right? Yeah, you made it work. That's a thing, and you're not dead.
Yeah.
No, stronger than ever.
Right.
All right. So sorry to interrupt, Gunnar. So you got Food Savers. What else do you got there for us?
Yeah, man. So after that, right? At that point too, you're probably gonna be like, "Hey, I don't mind butchering these. What can I do to make this easier on myself?" Right? Okay. Invest in a hand bone saw. Instead of having to work around that rear hip joint, cut it right off. It goes pretty quick, right? Saws are like $30 or $40, I think. I got an extra stainless table, so that way I can clean it really well. I can clean it with chemicals and stuff like that, and it's not going to mess it up. It was like $150 off Amazon. some good knives. Learn how to use a honing steel really well. You see people in restaurants do it all the time. They seems to most people that they just beat the shit out of their knives on this big hunk of steel and they say it sharpens it somehow, and it messes with the bevel on it. It basically, when you use your knife, it gets dull. This brings a little edge back by messing with the burr on there, essentially, and it just prolongs the time that you have before you have to sharpen it, right? But in the middle of butchering, I would much rather reach down and use that for 10 seconds than have to stop and try to sharpen my knife because I think it's not sharp enough.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
But,
yeah.
You have a little one. Dan has one that I saw the other day when we were butchering my deer last year.
Yeah.
It's a little with 2 wheels on
Oh,
it.
yeah, the real quick. Yeah, it's like a little black piece with the 2 like offset.
It helped for
Oh, yeah,
It gets the job done. It's not perfect.
I'd rather use that, like you said, for 10 seconds than have to resharp the whole knife again.
Yeah, and that's, granted, like, I take a lot of pride in how I sharpen my knives, and they're always so good and stuff, but it's like, in all these knife makers out there, and all these knife guys are going to say, don't use those home kitchen ones. They suck. And it's like, yeah, but if this knife's purpose is to butcher, and that's all it's going to do, I don't need to spend 2 hours sharpening it every time I need to use it. I'd much rather run it through this thing, wipe it off, go back to cutting.
Exactly, and that's pretty much what we use it for. I grew up using the steels and stuff, and they're great, but I could just never. My brain just, for whatever reason, I had a hard time using it. I was a kid too, so I just kind of stopped doing it and used this fucking little piece. Dude, I got this thing years ago.
It works.
It still works. Yeah,
It works.
Oh shit! Hell yeah.
All right, so we got that. When are you gonna start getting into like grinders, slicers?
That was
salt,
next, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that was next.
Continue on. Continue on.
We interrupt you too many times.
Yeah, right. So we're gonna put this out here too, right? A lot of guys that are gonna be doing this, pretty much all households now have a KitchenAid, right? Whether the dude has it or the wife has it, it doesn't matter though, right?
I know where this is going.
They make a cheap grinder attachment for that. Hey, by all means, use it as long as it's doing good for you. But when you get into stuff like I do, where I'm triple grinding and introducing fat and stuff, that grinder kind of starts to suck and it takes forever and it just doesn't put out good results, right? So that's when you want to get into, okay, hey, I'm going to buy a grinder, right? And for me being me, though, which granted, like, I was a butcher and everything, like, I'm buying a specific grinder and I'm buying a specific sausage stuffer. Now, most of the ones that you get are going to be able to do both. They have the little cone you can put on the front of the grinder and stuff your sausage and stuff. The results that I get with that aren't as consistent as results I get with a dedicated piece of equipment. Granted, though, I do this for a living. Most people aren't going to want to do that like I do, and they don't care about the textures. By all means, use the grinder that you can get with the sausage stuffer attachment. You're going to be fine as long as you're happy eating what you're making, essentially, Grinder-wise, though, get the most expensive one that's within your budget with the most horsepower and the best reviews. It might take you a day or two of research to find that thing. I recommend at least a 3/4 horse, if not going up higher in horsepower as well. I like higher personally. It lets you work through material faster. You get a better, consistent result. Especially when you start introducing like, hey, I'm going to grind fat in with this. Well, fat tends to get really hard and it does not like to go through a grinder very easily.
It doesn't.
The more power you have, the easier that grinder is going to make work of that fat that you're introducing, right?
Right. And it's a shorter period of time too, because I used to have a half horse that we would run, and when we were doing 3, 4, 5 deer at a time, like the whole family would get together, and that throat would get so hot that it would almost start to cook the fat and the meat and stuff. So that's one thing you gotta be mindful of, I should say, is making sure that throat stays cold. Like they make attachments now like that you can attach like legitimately like not ice, like ice packs to it to keep it cold, and that makes your life 10 times easier. So having, like Gunnar was saying, having that if you can get a 1 horsepower, yeah, it's going to hurt your pocket a little bit, but you're going to be able to push through a shit ton of meat very quickly, and then you don't have to worry about that.
Yep, exactly. And it's, hey, I'm going to spend an hour grinding today, or I'm going to spend 10 minutes. What would you prefer at that?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I prefer sending you the meat so you can do it for me.
Right? Hey, that's fine by me, man. That's whatever. Just, you might only get half a deer back or so. So, don't weigh it before you give it to me, because you're not going to be happy with the result.
Dude, I love so much your meat, man. I dropped it on the ground by mistake. God damn it, Connor.
Sorry, man.
That's
I don't know what to tell you there.
Yeah, no, I enjoy the grinding process.
Yeah.
The fat is a little pain in the butt, man. Especially if you have because I have a cheap. Well, I don't grind much stuff, but when I do, I'm like, fine. I'll take the day to do this, because then you gotta clean the whole thing, and that's just another pain in the butt too.
Yep.
But yeah.
I burnt a cheap one up the other 2 years ago. One of the guys I used to work with was like, "Oh, I got a slicer and a grinder, real cheap," and I was like, "Yeah, fuck it, I'll take it. It's no big deal." Dude, I burnt both of those up in the same year, grinding meat and then sliced. I was slicing provolone and I burnt the slicer up.
Oh, damn, yeah. Well, that's why rolling through cheese.
Yeah, well, cheese is the absolute. It's like the absolute worst for a slicer.
Yeah.
And I got this little piece of shit. Like they measure it in wattage. They don't even measure it in horsepower.
Oh man.
You know what I'm talking? Yeah. Don't buy the grinder that's like $56 at Dick's. I mean, you can, but I don't know. Buy nice, not twice. That's my philosophy.
Exactly. Yeah. That's allocate a little bit more money to this. Like, hey, if you're getting into hunting or you've been hunting, chances are like you've put some money into, some Sitka gear or First Flight, or you've had thoughts about buying the expensive stuff. Well, aftercare for meat processing is part of this process. You need to spend a little bit of money there too,
Yeah. Scrap that Sitka jacket and don't buy your processing stuff off of Amazon, please.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
You can kill a deer in Walmart camo for a year. It's okay.
Right. Yeah. You'll be okay. Like it's not going to hurt you not to have the Sitka right now. You're talking to a guy that also has like 10 grand in Sitka in my garage.
Hey, we're right there with you, bro.
Yeah. Oh shit.
I don't know what you're talking about.
There's levels to this shit.
Right. Yeah. There's levels here. Yeah. So yeah, rolling in with okay, you got your grinder all set, and a lot of that too is learn how to grind. Right. If you're doing burger for burger patties, grind that thing twice. Really emulsify that fat in there. Gives you a better texture, right? If you're doing sausage, do it once, do it twice, do it 3 times. My hot dogs get done 3 times because it just makes a very smooth product. A lot of people will say, oh, you have to, introduce ice in with this when you grind it and stuff like that too. And it's like, yes and no. If you're working with a cold enough product and you can keep it cold, everything is going to be fine, right? And for the people who are like, oh, you have to add ice to emulsify the fat into this, the normal lay person cannot, differentiate, oh, this had ice ground in with it, so it's a smoother, more emulsified texture, Nobody's going to care at this point. Just grind it, do it once, twice, 3 times. Some people grind and put spices in with it, some people don't. I prefer not to, because then if I'm doing multiple sausages or something, then I got to clean the whole damn thing again because I ground or spices in with it and, go from that. But once you have that done and you're like, okay, I want to start messing around with, hey, sausage, buy a stuffer or use the little attachment there. But best piece of advice here is go talk to your local butcher about how to make a sausage, because there's a lot more to it than you think. Yeah. And getting a feel for it instead of just watching YouTube is going to help you out so much.
Oh, for sure.
I made mistakes doing sausages. I did an Italian sausage once, and I only grind it once.
Yep.
And I didn't put any fat on it. I just did and I was just because I didn't know what the hell I was doing, right?
Right.
And I decided, because my Italian sausage, regular out of the store Italian sausage, the way I like to cook them is I boil them in IPA beer and then grill them. So I did the same thing with venison, but that thing dries so much that I felt like I was eating a piece of sandpaper, and I was just like, I can't believe I just wasted this. I was like, it was like eating sand almost. So don't do that.
Yeah, exactly. And,
That's
Pro
just me
tip
learning,
too.
not knowing that you gotta put fat, not knowing
Oh yeah.
all the mistakes, and all of us here, I'm gonna say that have make mistakes cooking wild game because there's such a small
Fine line,
threshold,
yeah.
like a fine line of
Yeah.
being really good and being really really bad. So don't get discouraged because you suck the first time. It happens to absolutely
I
everybody.
still fuck shit up trying to push the limit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yearly,
Exactly.
I still mess stuff up, and I'll continue to mess stuff because I'm like, oh, I want to try this.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's not good.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. And pro tip too for people. Oh, like how do I introduce fat or whatever? Go talk to your local butcher. They'll probably just give you some fat, if not sell it to you for like $1 a pound, and you only
Yeah.
need 1 to 2 pounds, if that, for what most people are doing at home.
Mm-hmm.
Fat is cheap.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's
Exactly.
oh, so
And then-
delicious.
Oh my god, yeah. Oh, yeah. But moving into like slicers and stuff, right? Same thing with your grinder. Buy, the top of your budget, the one that has the most power to it, and the one that look reviews up. How easy is this thing to clean? Because there's some really good ones out there, but they take an hour to clean, and then there's some pretty okay
right.
good ones that take 15 minutes. Well, I'm taking the 15-minute one.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, but
And don't
the
cut provolone.
slicer, exactly. No provolone. Yeah, go buy that shit. It's already sliced. People, come on.
Yes.
Uh,
Come on, Dan.
yeah,
Come on,
Just
Dan.
try to be
So-
super cheap.
yeah. Christ. What your slicer is going to be good for, though, right? Is say, hey, maybe this year you experimented and made a ham or pastrami or something, right? Now you can slice it and have good lunch meat and not have it look like dog crap because you sliced it by hand. Because nobody I've ever seen, even I can't slice lunch meat by hand. I'm not that good,
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just tell everybody I like going for that rustic look when I get lazy and do that. Like, oh, this
Yeah.
is traditional.
That's a
Yeah.
rustic look.
This is a
Rustic.
traditional Reuben.
Yeah,
This is Dutch
traditional
Reuben.
Reuben.
Hey,
Once
what-
again, it can be done. It's much easier to slice. Jerky too. Like if you're into making jerky, slicer.
Oh,
Yeah.
Makes
that
it
is the
really-
Yep.
best thing. Because
Yeah.
for jerky, I gotta freeze that,
Uh-huh.
and
Oh,
Yeah.
you just get
cut
that
it.
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, dude, I still freeze my jerky meat to run it on the slicer too. It works so much better.
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
without a doubt.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, that's
So for-
another thing a slicer is good for is jerky
Yeah,
meat,
jerky.
or say you want to pull out your Italian roots and make some bruschetta. Well, now you got a slicer to slice some really thin meat and pound it out and make it even more tender, and have it not look like crap because you did it by hand. Same thing.
Very good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do eat with our eyes, so
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's important. Even though it sounds like we're being fancy or anything like that, but yeah, it's important to make it look good.
Especially if you're trying to
Yeah.
get people into it.
Yeah, especially
Right.
especially.
Yeah. Now me, you could. I mean,
You can
You
give
don't
me some
count.
rustic meat.
you. I
Rustic.
was when we had that blood sausage for breakfast. We were putting on a piece of Italian toast, and you spread blood sausage on toast, and it literally looks like a dog shit on your toast.
Oh,
Well, yeah.
And but it's so good.
I don't know. I don't know.
I
if
think you appreciate the look after you eat it.
yeah,
that's what it
yeah,
is.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's seen blood sausage, but it's literally just black. It's a black
Yeah.
sausage. And when you
Yep.
cook it, you don't know if you're burning it or it's already cooked or you burned it already. But god damn it, man.
It's so good.
Can we try to make blood sausage out of deer, Gunnar? You think we can
You
we can make that
Um,
happen?
so you can. It's hard to do, and pending the deer that you get, it's gonna taste like shit.
Hmm.
Because most of the gaminess that you get from a deer is found in their blood. It's a very irony
Yeah.
flavor, right? Which is where the iron is found, is in their blood. The control that you don't have either is, most blood sausage is made from pork, essentially. It's just easier to make it out of sausage. But they're all farm raised. They've all had antibiotics. They know that blood is clean. For you to know that, you have to fully cook it. And if you fully cook it before you make the sausage, it'll just coagulate and you're screwed.
Yeah.
How would you go about acquiring that much blood from a deer? Because, like, you shoot a deer and it's essentially bleeding out.
That's the hard part. Yeah, I mean,
like how I'm trying to think of like how you would hit it
you
with
almost
your truck.
Can't.
Right.
Yeah. You get two sausages per deer.
Yeah, unless you get a straight shot right to the top of the dome, where there's no real blood. They just don't have a brain anymore.
Right.
You might be able to save it, but even then, you're not hunting this thing in your garage in order to get the blood right out. It's a big process there.
You're breaking my heart here.
We could try. We'll try.
You can try and let me know the results.
No, but I need your guidance, man. Can I do a Zoom meeting while I do this?
Hey, man, cut it half and half with pork, taste it up, and that's all I'm going to tell you.
Just pork is the solution.
Yeah.
Pork it is. We're racing pigs just for blood sausage.
Hey, I said that earlier and you yelled at me for
that's
too
what
many
I'm saying.
times.
We're racing pigs just for the blood sausage.
Is that before or after the alpacas?
Before the mule.
Okay. All right. Tangents. We're very bad with these.
Yeah.
God damn it, I was gonna ask you a question.
I'm sorry, buddy.
It just it was gone shortly after I thought of it.
The blood sauce.
Yeah. I don't remember. Anyway, so okay, we talked about slicers. I think we pretty much covered just about all the equipment. I mean, if you want to get a bandsaw, meat saw, and be real fancy and shit, but you don't need that.
And even
at all.
then, unless you're doing, 30 deer a year and you're cutting hindquarter steaks off of it that are bone in, don't bother with it. It's not worth it. And those steaks suck too.
I was just gonna say I hate those steaks because every single piece of those muscle groups cooks differently.
Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly, yeah. Different texture, different flavor, different time, everything like that. And it's like, well, the steak sucks, and that's why it always sucks, because nobody can cook it right because it doesn't cook right.
Do you save the bones and make your own stock and stuff?
Oh, that's a weird topic to get into. Just with all the CWD going around right now and shit like that. Especially in PA, and normally I'm not leery of, viral pathology, things like that. However, just with what CWD is, essentially it's a tangled up protein that, can live in the soil for 30 years. It can do a lot of stuff. It can potentially jump species to species. Really weird stuff, but that's with all prions as well. And really any virus or bacteria or prion out there, they can all jump at some point. They have a zoologic effect. Whether they do or not, it's weird. It's a really weird thing. So I haven't done as much lately, because normally, hey, I'm making 5 gallons of, venison bone broth here that, I'm going to use that for a bunch of stuff. And now I don't really as much. I'll still cook with bone and stuff in it. Just not as, rendering and getting every nutrient out of that bone that I can anymore.
Right. That makes sense. I never thought about the CWD thing, because we're not really in a CWD zone, so there's not really much to worry about here. Obviously, it's still a thought, though. It's still in the back of your head. But
and that, I'm well north of the zone too. However, just from, and that's, I have my wildlife biology degree and all that, and just from pictures I've seen up in the area and stuff, there were some that they kind of look indicative of having CWD, even though they're not documented up here. They probably didn't get shot and tested and all that. But I'm going to play it safe until we're really, really sure of this part.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move into, I want to wrap this up, but I want to get into fresh meals. So you kill a deer, you got some fresh meat. What just let's run through some meals that we like and in particular you, Gunnar, you like.
Yeah. One of my favorites with a fresh kill is heart tacos.
Oh, sweet baby Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't had them in a minute.
Yeah, me neither.
Ugh.
So
I
how do
love
you
it.
how
And
do you cut how do you cut the heart? Do you take the bobs out? Do you cut them in thin slices? Fry them? Grill them?
So I take all the valves out. I'm just like you have people who are they're cartilage guys and they can eat all that shit. I don't care for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I take all the valves out and then I will slice it up. Good steak taco size strips essentially. Not too big, not
Okay.
too small. Um,
Thin.
big enough where you still get texture, but like if I bite into a taco, I'm not pulling out 3 or 4 strands of meat in my mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. But
And
no,
you
I
grill
take
it?
that. What's that?
You grill them?
Oh, you have to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. So I take it.
Zero discussion.
Get it all-
Yeah, that's how you do it.
It's
Well-
the only way. Shut up, Antonio.
Yeah. What else would you do? I mean, shit, man.
Well,
It's a taco.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I put deep fried steak in my tacos too, but that's just me. Being
See,
lazy.
you're
What
like
sauce is
mixing the Venezuelan and the redneck part, and I'm not a fan of that yet.
You'll get
Deep
to it.
fried
Trust me.
steak, like what?
Hold on, okay? We just have
let
it
it happen.
hang a little bit.
Just let it happen.
Just let it happen.
It won't hurt. I promise.
That's hilarious.
Oh,
But because
Christ.
because when the last time I ate heart, right? I just deep fried it.
Yeah.
Like batter and deep fried, and it's delicious. So I had a little piece of tortilla with me, and I was just like, just make a quick taco, and it's fucking delicious.
Oh yeah, man, I can see that for sure. Fuck yeah.
Okay,
Oh.
then don't
Yeah.
don't make the redneck and the fucking Mexican with me, okay, son of a bitch.
Shit.
All right, anyways,
So what I do?
what
for
else do
mine,
we do
too-
with fresh skills?
Man, I'm still on tacos because I really want to make
Okay,
these
sorry.
tacos. Right?
Sorry. I'm interrupting you 100 times. Go ahead, buddy.
So part of like, hey, what the hell is it? Vacuum sealer I have, right? A chamber sealer.
Mhm.
I can marinate with that thing without sucking liquid out of the bag like you would your normal ones that you buy for home, right?
Mm.
So in goes some, lime, cilantro, some oil, salt, some seasoning, some onion in there as well. I even throw in like some soy sauce too. Vacuum seal and let it sit for even like 20 minutes in a vacuum sealed marinade is like 3 hours just in a bowl, basically.
Oh,
It does wonders, right? Then yeah, grill that super high heat right over charcoal, toast up the tortillas, and you always gotta have 2. Some onion, some fresh cilantro, and I might make like a salsa roja or something like that for over the top. But yeah, that is one of my go-tos right there.
I like that.
Yeah.
What do you got, Antonio?
I just go with the simple solution of backstraps. It's just
Yeah.
my favorite thing to
Okay.
do right after I kill anything. It's
Yeah.
it's like comfort food almost, and
Right.
you're exhausted from it, or I usually just take a little piece. I clean, do the whole thing of putting in the freezer, but I leave a little piece of backstrap outside, and I just grill it real quick, and then that's my like your little, here you go, buddy.
Yeah,
You deserve this.
I do that with the.
Because it's so good. It's so good and so simple,
I want to call them the fish. That's what a lot of people call them out here is the fish. But the
Oh,
sweet
yeah.
yeah, that's grilling them whole and just slicing them up with some fresh vegetables. That's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever? We're digging. This is deep here. Have you ever had venison tongue?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that? Because I've had it too. It's
I've
interesting.
never had it.
It's not bad.
It's not bad, but it's not. It's different from beef tongue that I've had. It's weird,
yeah.
and I want to experiment more with it this year.
I don't want to say crunchy, but it's almost crunchy.
Yeah, and like, I like normally when I do beef tongue too, like, there's multiple ways you can do. You can do it in pressure cooker and shred it and stuff like that, or if you remove the right membrane and you cook it correctly, you can slice it and stuff like that. And I'm like, I really want to mess around with it. Just a beef tongue compared to a deer tongue is 18 times the fucking size. So there's a
Yeah,
lot more I
essentially
can do
you're
with a
getting
beef
left-
tongue without, oh man, now I'm
Right.
out of tongue.
Yeah, you peel that layer and you get like a hot dog left, pretty much.
Exactly, yeah. And you're like, what? All right, I guess.
So how do you cook the tongue? Do you boil
Boil
it, take the skin, I guess, off, and then cook the meat,
Yeah.
or it's already cooked?
That's what I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
I'll bet
what
you
a
what
lot
though,
of
you put
people
some
do.
ricochet rub on that.
Ooh, that'll make anything good,
Yeah,
though,
see?
man. I mean, come on.
See, we've not found
Even fried taco,
anything.
fry hard tacos.
We have not found anything that's not good on yet.
Yeah,
No shit.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
it's.
Hey, by the way, I grabbed that secret rub that you gave us with the sugar in it,
Oh yeah.
and we caramelized some apples on the fire with in the cast. It came
Oh.
out fucking pretty damn good.
Yes,
Oh,
very good.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
He gave us a sweet and spicy like specialty rub blend that he's tinkering with,
Yeah, tinkering.
and we have
Mhm.
we're supposed to put it on pulled pork, like
Yeah.
like cut like shit like meat,
Yeah.
and we put it on sweet potatoes. We put it on apples.
Yeah.
We put it on
God
everything
Christ.
but.
No, we're trying.
Hey
We're trying
man, at least I
different
know it
things.
works
We
on
test
other
shit.
shit now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
we test shit.
Yeah, 100%.
That's
yeah,
good.
I'll take that.
All right. So we went through that. The big secret, special secret for those of you who stuck with us. And if we had more money, we'd give everybody a T-shirt, but we're just going to give you a hug because we don't have a lot of money. So moving forward, Gunnar and ourselves at Craving Wild, we're going to be partnering up and kind of working together. So you're going to see a lot or hear a lot more of him. Hopefully in the future, see a lot more of him when we start putting out the video stuff with cooking. So we're super pumped to be able to work with you, Gunnar, and test out all your seasonings, put them on stuff, try different stuff. Every time I talk to you, I have like a list of things I want to try now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the big reveal.
Yeah. We're super happy to have you, buddy.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. I'm happy to be a part of this. But you guys are doing stuff that I like because there's not a lot of guys out there that are bridging hunting and cooking together. And that's a big movement right now is all these people are getting into hunting, as an adult or something like that. And it's like, well, you got to put twofold in and learn how to cook this stuff because then you're going to make the best memory that you can because you killed that thing,
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I want people to know there's like we said there's like levels to it. You don't have to be a full-on chef with like years of culinary experience in some
Right.
French cuisine to know how to properly cook wild game.
Right.
Like you can just be like me, just a bum on the street that just likes to eat food,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you can put together some pretty cool things.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's a lot of it too is hey, you get to start somewhere, you don't have to be the world's greatest chef and get the most perfect crust on something and you're smoking. Just give it a shot.
Mhm.
You're going to learn and pretty soon you're going to make something that you're like, "Wow, that was the best thing I've ever ate."
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, actually, you told this on our first podcast, and I still remember because it did get like I hold it dearly that you said this, that I was so scared of eating meat because I was scared of, well, not eating meat, I was scared of cooking wild game and fucking it up, and wasting the meat. But you did say, and you told me, and something in the lines that but you still tried it. The deer didn't go to waste. You're still getting better at it. So don't look at it as a waste. You're still
Yeah.
doing some. So even though it came out bad, for the next time, it has some value to it. So it's not that you're wasting it. It's just the learning things, and it's pretty true. Because at the beginning, I was so scared of fucking it up and just wasting the meat and doing all that stuff. But yeah, just if it fucks up, for the next time, don't do that. Just do something else, and you get better at it.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
meat didn't go to waste. It gave you education. It gave you,
Right.
You learn a lot from it.
Yeah. I mean, very rarely, very rarely is it like inedible,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
it's not gonna, sometimes you might get a little carried away with salt or something like that. I think that's probably how most people, or dry it the hell out,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can eat it. Worse, I mean, you can give it to the dog.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
has its uses. It's in
Yeah.
some way or some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
We'll wrap up on this one. I think this was a good episode after the kill, which I want to get do some more episodes like this. Maybe we'll do it throughout the season.
Yeah.
Like as it gets colder, we'll get into a little bit more like the hanging and all that stuff with the hide on, with the
Yeah.
hide off, so on and so forth.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
hopefully, somebody listening to this, they want to get into it. They want to learn how to move along, and feel free to reach out to us, and I'm sure Gunnar is the same way. Like we'll gladly help you out and kind of point you in
Yeah.
the right direction.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can turn you into an outdoorsman who is also a good cook, and you can get more people into it.
Yeah.
Which is the goal. So Antonio, you have anything you want to say?
No.
I don't have anything. Gunnar, you have anything? Any last words?
No last words, not yet.
Awesome, man. Well, once again, we appreciate you coming on, Gunnar. Obviously, you're going to be hearing from Gunnar and us a lot more together, so be on the lookout for that. And you guys know what to do. Satisfy that craving. Be wild.